Alright, so I wasn't even sure I wanted to post this, but it's been eating at me. I don't know how else to deal with it. If I keep this inside, I feel like I'll go crazy. I don't care if anyone believes me, honestly, I wouldn't believe me either if I hadn't lived through it. But if you're reading this, at least you'll understand why I can't look at a mirror the same way anymore. It all started in the apartment I moved into last year. It wasn't anything fancy, just a basic one-bedroom place in a decently quiet neighborhood in Chicago. The rent was cheap, probably because the building was old. You know the kind, creaky wooden floors, thin walls, and those weirdly high ceilings that make everything feel just a little off. I liked it at first. It had character. The bathroom mirror was one of those old, heavy ones, built into the wall above the sink. It had a thick, slightly tarnished silver frame, the kind you'd see in a house from the 1920s. It was huge, took up almost the entire wall above the sink, and it had these tiny, almost imperceptible black specks dotting the glass, like it had aged over time. I didn't think much of it at first. I mean, it's just a mirror, right? But I swear, from the very first week, something about it felt wrong. At first, it was subtle. I'd be brushing my teeth, half asleep, and something would make me do a double take. You know that weird feeling when you catch your own reflection and, for just a split second, you feel like you're looking at someone else? That happened. A lot. The first time I really noticed something was off was a Tuesday night. I remember because I'd come home late from work, exhausted, and went straight to the bathroom to wash up. I flicked on the light, looked at myself, and froze. Something about my reflection didn't sit right with me. It was nothing obvious, I mean, it was me, but there was something in the eyes. A second too slow in blinking. A stiffness in the way my head moved. Just wrong enough to make my stomach twist. I shook it off. I was just tired. But after that, I started paying attention. And that's when things got worse. Let me know if this is the kind of vibe you're looking for, and I'll send you the next part. A couple of weeks passed, and I kept trying to brush it off. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was overthinking the weird feeling I got whenever I looked at the mirror. But deep down, something about it stuck with me. Then one night, it proved to me that I wasn't imagining things. I had just gotten home from work. It was around midnight. The apartment was dark except for the streetlights bleeding through the blinds, casting those long, broken shadows across the floor. I went straight to the bathroom, turned on the light, and started washing my face. When I looked up, my reflection was off again. The same weird stiffness. The same slightly delayed movement. But this time, I knew for sure. I moved my head from left to right, slowly. My reflection followed, but it was a fraction of a second too late. Just enough to make my skin crawl. I took a step closer. My heart was starting to pound, but I didn't look away. And then it happened. My reflection smiled at me. I didn't smile. My face was frozen in shock, my breath caught in my throat. But the thing in the mirror, the thing pretending to be me, tilted its head just slightly and pulled its lips into a slow, deliberate grin. It wasn't a normal smile. It was wrong. Too wide. Too forced. Like it was imitating the idea of a smile but didn't quite understand how human expressions worked. I stumbled back so fast I hit my shoulder against the doorframe. My reflection snapped back to normal in an instant, mirroring me perfectly again, my own pale, terrified face staring back. I stood there, my whole body cold, breath shuddering in and out. I was still awake. Still in my apartment. But suddenly, I didn't feel alone anymore. That was the night I stopped looking at the mirror for too long. Because I knew, without a doubt, that something else was looking back. After that night, I avoided the bathroom mirror as much as possible. I'd keep my head down when I brushed my teeth, shut off the light before stepping out, and refused to meet my own eyes. It was irrational, I knew that. But some deep, primal part of me understood, I wasn't safe if I looked too long. But it didn't stop there. Over the next few nights, I started noticing things. My reflection wasn't just delayed anymore. It was, wrong in tiny, almost imperceptible ways. The angles of my shoulders looked just slightly off. The way my chest rose and fell with my breath felt unnatural, like I was watching someone pretending to breathe. And then came the worst part. One night, I was in bed, trying to sleep. The apartment was dead silent except for the occasional car passing outside. I had my eyes closed, my body exhausted, but my mind refused to shut off. Then, from the bathroom, I heard a sound. A faint, soft tap, tap, tap against the mirror. My stomach twisted. I wasn't moving. I was alone. But something in that bathroom was touching the glass. I lay there, frozen, ears straining. Then, nothing. Silence. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. But the next morning, I made a mistake. I forgot to look away. I was half awake, standing at the sink, rubbing my face when I finally glanced up. And that's when I saw it. A handprint on the mirror. It wasn't mine. It was larger. Fingers too long, the shape distorted, stretched. The glass was slightly fogged up around it, as if something warm had pressed against it in the middle of the night. I stared at it, my whole body numb. Then, with shaking hands, I grabbed a towel and wiped it away. I told myself it was just a smudge. That maybe it had been there all along. That I had missed it somehow. But deep down, I knew. I wasn't alone in that mirror anymore. Something else was there. And it was getting closer that I should have left. I should have packed my shit and gotten out of that apartment the moment I saw that handprint. But I didn't. Because part of me still clung to logic. To rationality. Maybe I just hadn't noticed it before. Maybe it was a weird stain from the previous tenant. Maybe I was overtired, overworked, stressed. But then, something happened that I couldn't explain away. It was Friday night. I remember because I had planned to stay in, drink a couple of beers, watch a movie, and just not think about the mirror. I had avoided looking into it for days at this point, barely even turned on the bathroom light. But at around 2 a.m., I woke up cold. Not the normal kind of cold. Not, I forgot to pull up the blanket, cold. This was wrong. The air itself felt heavy, like the temperature had dropped unnaturally low. My breath came out in a faint mist. Something wasn't right. Then I heard it. A creak. From the bathroom. I wasn't moving. I was dead still in bed. But from the other side of the apartment, I heard the distinct, slow creak of something shifting inside the bathroom. The door was open. I always left it open. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to convince myself it was nothing. That old buildings make noises, that pipes settle, that. And then I heard footsteps. Soft. Slow. Deliberate. Not from the hallway. Not from outside. From inside my bathroom. I stopped breathing. My whole body locked up. I turned my head ever so slightly, just enough to get a glimpse toward the doorway. And that's when I saw it. A figure. Standing in the darkness just outside my bathroom door. It was me. But not. The shape, the height, the posture, it was exactly like mine. But the face was just slightly wrong. The way it stood, too stiff, too unnatural. Its head was tilted at an odd angle, like a broken doll, watching me. And then, it moved. I heard it take a step forward. The floorboard groaned under its weight. My pulse slammed against my ribs, my breath coming out in ragged, shallow gasps. I couldn't move. Couldn't even scream. Then, In the dim light, I saw its mouth start to curl. That same, horrible, unnatural smile. And I realized something that sent my stomach dropping into a pit of pure terror. The mirror hadn't just been off. It had been practicing. It wasn't just watching me anymore. It had stepped out. I don't remember falling asleep. I don't even remember how long I laid there, staring at the thing that looked like me, standing in the dark. But I remember waking up. And I remember what changed. The first thing I noticed was the silence. Not just the normal quiet of an empty apartment, but a thick, suffocating stillness, like the world had been placed on mute. No cars outside. No hum of the refrigerator. Just, nothing. I sat up, every muscle in my body tense, and looked toward the bathroom. The figure was gone. But the bathroom door was closed. I never closed that door. Something about that hit me in a way I can't explain. I should have been relieved. I should have thought, maybe I dreamed it. Maybe it wasn't real. But I knew better. I forced myself to move, swinging my legs over the side of the bed. The floor was ice cold. My whole body felt sluggish, like I was wading through something thick and unseen. I stood up. The bathroom door remained shut. I didn't want to open it. Every instinct in me screamed don't. But I had to. With a shaking hand, I reached out and gripped the doorknob. Cold metal against my palm. My breath was shallow, my skin damp with sweat. I turned the handle. The door swung open. The bathroom was pitch black. The light switch was just inside the doorway, but my fingers fumbled over it, slick with sweat. When I finally found it and flipped it up, my stomach dropped. The mirror. It wasn't reflecting the room correctly. At first glance, everything looked normal. The sink, the counter, the towel I had left crumpled on the floor. But then I saw my reflection. It was standing slightly to the left. Not where I was. Not mirroring me perfectly. Just, off-center. I lifted a hand. My reflection lifted its hand too, but too late. A half-second delay. That horrible, slow, unnatural lag. Then, it smiled. I didn't. I backed away, my heart pounding against my ribs. The smile on my reflection widened, stretching too far, its teeth too white, too straight. I grabbed the nearest thing, a bottle of mouthwash, and hurled it at the mirror. The glass shattered. For a split second, I swore I saw something moving behind it, a dark, shifting mass, like hands pressing against the other side of the glass. Then everything was still. The pieces of the mirror lay in the sink, on the floor, glittering like broken ice. My reflection, gone. I should have felt relief. But all I could think was, where did it go? I should have left. I should have grabbed my keys, walked out the door, and never looked back. But I didn't. Because I was too afraid to turn my back. I stood there, staring at the shattered mirror, my pulse hammering in my ears. The pieces on the floor reflected fractured bits of my face, but they were still normal. Like a broken mirror should be. But I knew better. Because when I had shattered the glass, I had seen something behind it. Something dark. Something that had been watching me. I forced myself to breathe. I needed to do something. My brain clung to logic like a lifeline. Maybe I had imagined it. Maybe it was just some weird visual effect from the way the mirror broke. Maybe. And then I heard it. A whisper. From the shattered pieces. It was faint, barely audible, but it was there, a dry, rasping breath that wasn't mine. I took a step back. My foot landed on a shard of glass, and pain shot through me, sharp and real. I bit back a curse, looking down. And then I saw it. In one of the larger shards near my foot. An eye. Not mine. Wide. Wrong. staring up at me. I staggered back, my breath hitching. The eye didn't blink. It was just there, watching me from inside the glass, like the mirror was still a window, even though it was broken. And then, the pieces moved. Not slid. Not shifted. Moved. As if something beneath them was pressing against them, trying to push through. The air in the bathroom turned heavy. Thick. My ears popped, like I was in a pressurized cabin. And then I heard it again. That whisper. But now it was clearer. And it was laughing. A dry, rasping chuckle that sent a bolt of pure terror through me. Then, all at once, every single shard of glass flipped over. Like something inside the mirror had just turned them all at once. I ran. I don't even remember making the decision. 1 second I was in that bathroom, and the next I was out the door, into the hallway, slamming it behind me. I stood there, chest heaving, my back pressed against the wood. My heart was beating so hard it hurt. The apartment was silent again. But I wasn't stupid. I knew it was still in there. Waiting. Watching. And I had no idea if it was still trapped behind the glass. Or if it had finally gotten out. I didn't go back inside that night. I grabbed my keys, my phone, and I left. I didn't pack a bag. I didn't turn off the lights. I just walked out of my apartment and kept walking, barely aware of my own movements until I found myself sitting in my car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles had gone white. I was shaking. What the hell had I just seen? The thing in the mirror, the thing that looked like me, was still in there. But the worst part was, I didn't know if the glass had held it. Or if it was already out. I sat in my car until the sky started turning gray with the first light of morning, my body wired with exhaustion but my mind refusing to shut down. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it, the reflection that didn't belong, the smile that wasn't mine, the eye in the broken glass staring up at me. I should have gone to a friend's place. A hotel. Anywhere. But instead, I did something stupid. I went back. I don't know why. Maybe I thought I had imagined it. Maybe I needed to see if my apartment was still normal. It wasn't. The second I stepped inside, I felt it. The stillness. The air was thick. The apartment smelled wrong, a faint, metallic scent, like burnt wires and something else underneath. Something rotten. The bathroom door was wide open. I hadn't left it that way. The mirror was still shattered, the pieces exactly where they had been. But the second I stepped into the bathroom, my breath caught in my throat. Because in the largest shard still attached to the wall, I saw myself. But I wasn't moving. I was just standing there, inside the reflection, staring at myself. My reflection's eyes were wide. Too wide. And its chest wasn't rising and falling. It wasn't breathing. And then, it grinned. I stumbled back. And then my reflection, the thing in the glass, spoke. It didn't move its lips, but I heard it. A whisper, slithering into my ears, into my head. You broke the glass. A pause. Then. Now there's nothing between us anymore. A horrible, twisting sensation gripped my stomach. I turned and ran. But before I made it out the door, I heard one last thing. A breath. Behind me. And it wasn't mine. I never went back. I don't know who's living in that apartment now. I don't want to know. I left the city. Moved to the other side of the country. But sometimes, in mirrors, in windows, in any reflective surface, I catch something. A shadow. A shape, just for a second, standing a little too far to the left. Watching. And waiting. Because I don't think I left it behind. I think it knows my face now. And one day, I think it's going to take it. For good.